Hello friends. About 99% of friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments from which country you are watching the video. Alright folks, buckle up because what I'm about to tell you ain't no ordinary trucker's tale. This is the kind of story that'll make you think twice before hitting those long, lonely stretches of highway at night. Alright, let me tell y'all a story that still chills me to the bone every time I think about it. This ain't one of those tales you swap around a campfire just to get a rise out of someone. This really happened to me, out on the highway, somewhere between nowhere and a place the maps don't name. You see, trucking's more than just hauling freight. It's hours of silence broken by static on the radio and shadows that stretch just a little too long across the road. I've seen accidents, animals where they shouldn't be, and things that make you double-check your locks, but nothing prepared me for what I ran into one foggy night on Route 77. I was hauling a refrigerated load from Laredo to Denver. The route was routine, the kind I could do with my eyes closed, though I never would, obviously. Things started going sideways just past Wichita Falls. The fog rolled in so thick you'd think the sky had fallen to the ground. I could barely see 10 feet in front of me even with my brights on, and that's when I saw it. This shape standing dead center in my lane. At first I thought it was a deer, maybe an elk. But it didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there tall and stiff like it was waiting for me. I hit the brakes hard enough to jolt my teeth, tires screeching, trailer swinging a little in protest. When I finally came to a stop, that figure was still standing there. My heart pounded like a jackhammer in my chest as I leaned forward, trying to get a better look through the windshield. The shape was human, but not quite. Too tall. Its limbs were long, thin, almost like sticks wrapped in shadow. I couldn't see its face, just a pale oval that caught the light wrong. I don't know what possessed me, but I opened the door and stepped down onto the asphalt. I called out, "Hey, you all right?" But all I got back was silence. Not even the crickets dared to chirp. The figure tilted its head, slow and unnatural, and then it turned and walked straight off the road, disappearing into the fog like it had never been there. I stood frozen, half convinced I was dreaming, until a gust of wind slammed my door shut behind me. That snap jolted me awake, and I scrambled back into the cab, heart hammering. I checked my mirrors, turned the brights to full, even laid on the horn. Nothing, empty road. But the air felt wrong, heavy like it was holding its breath. I didn't stop again that night. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. Just drove until the sun rose and the fog finally burned off. But even in the daylight, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Like I'd seen behind a curtain I wasn't supposed to pull back. And that, my friends, was only the beginning. I remember this one night I was hauling a load through the back roads of Mississippi. The air was thick with humidity, and the only sounds were the hum of my engine and the occasional chirp of crickets. I was on a stretch of road that locals called Whispering Pines. They say it's named that because the wind whistles through the trees in a way that sounds like whispers. I always thought it was just folklore, until that night. Wikipedia, as I drove deeper into the woods, the whispers began. At first I thought it was the wind playing tricks on me. But then the whispers turned into voices, soft, indistinct, but unmistakably human. They seemed to be coming from the trees themselves. I rolled down my window to listen, and I swear I heard my name being called. "Jack. Jack," the voices murmured. I slammed the window shut and pressed the accelerator, eager to leave that eerie place behind, but the road seemed to stretch endlessly, the trees closing in tighter, the whispers growing louder. It felt like I was driving in circles, trapped in a loop. Suddenly, my headlights illuminated a figure standing in the middle of the road. I slammed, on the brakes, tires screeching as I came to a halt just inches away. The figure was a woman, dressed in a tattered white gown, her hair matted and covering her face. She slowly lifted her head, revealing hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through me. "Help me," she whispered. I was frozen, unable to move or speak. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished into thin air. The whispers ceased, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. I didn't waste any time. I floored it out of there, not stopping until I reached the next town. When I told the locals about my experience, they nodded solemnly. They said many drivers had encountered the whispering woman on that stretch of road. Legend has it she was a bride-to-be who died in a car accident on her wedding day, and her spirit lingers, seeking help that never comes. Wikipedia. Since that night, I avoid Whispering Pines at all costs. But sometimes, when I'm driving through dense woods, I swear I can still hear the faint whispers calling my name. I remember one night, I was hauling a shipment of steel coils from Indianapolis down to Laredo, Texas. Route was supposed to be smooth, long stretch, mostly highway, and I had the midnight roads all to myself. But something about that trip didn't sit right from the start. Just an hour past St. Louis, the CB radio crackled to life, not with voices from other drivers, but with static that twisted and pulsed like it had a heartbeat of its own. Then came the voice, low, gravelly, but familiar. It whispered my name. Not once, not twice, but 3 times, like it was calling me back to something I'd forgotten. I yanked the CB plug, heart pounding, but the sound didn't stop. It kept going, the same whisper now echoing inside the cab even though the radio was dead cold. I glanced in the side mirror, and for a split second I thought I saw headlights behind me. Not just any headlights, old-school halogen beams flickering, like candles set low like an old Crown Vic. But when I looked again, nothing. Empty road. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was just tired. Highway fatigue, they call it. But I'd driven through worse without a single hallucination. So I turned up the music, drank the rest of my coffee, and kept going. That's when I noticed. The mileage on the odometer wasn't changing. I'd been driving nearly 20 minutes and it hadn't moved. GPS showed me stuck in the same spot. I tapped the screen, froze, rebooted the system. Still the same stretch of road repeating over and over, same tree, same bent road sign, same busted mile marker. It was like I was driving in a loop I couldn't escape. That's when the fog rolled in, thick, heavy, like smoke pouring across the asphalt. I slowed down, squinting through the windshield. The road disappeared entirely, swallowed in white. I turned on the high beams, but all they did was bounce the light back at me. That's when I saw him, a figure in the middle of the highway. Just standing there, motionless, wearing what looked like a highway patrol uniform, but all wrong. No badge, no patches, and no face. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded to a stop, the tires screaming. When the dust and fog settled, he was gone. Not a trace. I checked outside, nothing but silence. But when I climbed back in, there were muddy boot prints, fresh ones, on my driver's seat. I didn't stop again until I hit Texas, and even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had climbed in with me, something that hadn't left, something still riding with me in the dark. I didn't tell anyone what happened for a while. Not because I was afraid they wouldn't believe me, but because I wasn't sure I believed it myself. You ever feel like something's just off? Like you're being watched, but when you turn around, nothing's there? That's how it was every time I climbed back into my rig after that night. Like there was a passenger riding shotgun that I couldn't see, but could feel just under my skin. The radio kept acting weird too. Random voices, static bursts, even a few old country songs that sounded warped like they were being sung by someone underwater. I'd hear my name every now and then, mixed into the white noise. And the smell. That was the worst part. It was like wet dirt and rust with this hint of something rotten like roadkill left too long in the sun. It would come and go, but always at night, never during the day. One night, a couple weeks later, I was heading through New Mexico on a stretch of Highway 285. It was a lonely road, not much out there but desert and sky, and I'd driven it dozens of times. This time, though, the sky had a weird tint to it. Not just dark, but almost bruised-looking, like a thunderstorm was coming, even though the weather report was clean. About 100 miles from Roswell, my headlights caught something up ahead. I figured it was a deer, or maybe a wild dog at first, but it stood up. Tall, thin, long limbs, too long for a person, pale, almost glowing in the dark. I slowed down, but didn't stop. I kept my foot light on the gas, heart racing, and then it started walking, no gliding across the road. I swear to you, it didn't touch the ground. No footsteps. Just this smooth, floating motion like it was sliding on ice. As it passed, in front of my truck, it turned its head, and that's when I saw the eyes. Jet black. Bottomless. Like holes punched into the universe. I couldn't look away. I couldn't even breathe. It didn't say a word, but in my head I heard something. Not in English. Not in any language I know. Just sound. A hum, deep and low, that vibrated in my chest like it was trying to break something loose inside me. Then just as suddenly it vanished into the desert. I hit the gas and didn't stop until I saw the lights of Roswell in the distance. Checked my dash cam the next day. Nothing. Just static for those whole 3 minutes. But I know what I saw. And I know whatever it was, it saw me too. The highways ain't just roads, friend. They're lines between this world and something else. And some nights, that line gets real thin. After that night near Roswell, I started sleeping with the cab light on. Might sound silly, but it made me feel like I was putting up a wall between me and whatever the hell was out there. The glow of that little bulb felt like the only thing holding back the dark. I even started leaving the radio off completely. No music, no chatter, just the hum of the engine and the road beneath my wheels. But silence, I learned, don't always mean peace. One evening, I was hauling a load of machinery from Phoenix up to Salt Lake. Clear skies, dry air, and long stretches of empty road through Utah's red rock country. Normally, it's peaceful, beautiful even, but this time, there was a weight in the air, like something pressing down on the world. I rolled into a rest stop just outside Moab around 2:30 in the morning. There were a couple other trucks parked, so I figured I'd catch a nap and stretch my legs. That's when I noticed something strange. All the other trucks were off. No lights, no engines humming. Windows rolled up tight. I figured maybe the drivers were just sleeping. I walked to the restroom, and the second I stepped out of my cab, I heard it. A low whistle off in the distance. Not the wind. No, this was deliberate, tuned, like someone trying to play a song with their lips but only knew one note. It echoed across the parking lot. Then, one by one, the other truck's lights flicked on. Not headlights, cab lights. All at once. No one. Inside moved, no doors opened, just lights glowing like eyes in the dark. I froze. Took a step back toward my own rig, and then I saw it. This shape slinking between the trucks. Low to the ground, but fast. Real fast, like a shadow that didn't want to be seen. It darted behind a trailer, then another. Then I heard a tapping. Not on my truck. On the truck next to mine. Like long fingers running down the glass. I couldn't see anything, but I knew, deep in my bones, I was being hunted again. That same feeling from Roswell was back. Like something had picked up my scent. I slammed my cab door shut, locked it, and just sat there. Didn't even start the engine. Just watched. Waited. And then, just as suddenly as it all started, the lights went out again. Every last one. Darkness returned like a curtain dropping. I turned the key, floored it, and didn't look back. Never stopped till I hit Provo. No radio, no sleep, just me and the road. Whatever's out there, it's not random. It follows patterns. It picks its moments. And sometimes, it follows you. Ready for the next part when you are. After Provo, I took a few days off the road, holed up in a cheap motel near the outskirts. I told dispatch my rig needed maintenance, but truth is, I needed time to breathe. Time to figure out if I was losing my mind or if something was really after me. You can only run on adrenaline and denial for so long before the cracks start showing. I kept thinking about those synchronized cab lights, the whistling, that shadow, how it moved, how it felt like it knew me. I kept the blinds drawn and only left the room to grab vending machine snacks. The lady at the front desk noticed, asked if I was okay. I just said I was tired. She gave me this weird look, then handed me a key to another room. Said that one had better vibes. I laughed. But when I walked in, I swear the air felt easier to breathe. Maybe it was psychological, but I appreciated the gesture. That night, though, I had the worst dream I've ever had. I was parked on an empty stretch of road, nowhere near civilization. Everything outside my truck was pitch black, not even moonlight. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw a figure sitting in my sleeper. I turned around, but it was empty. Looked back at the mirror. It was still there. Closer. Watching me. I tried to scream, to open the door and run, but the door wouldn't budge. Then it whispered my name. Not yelled, not hissed. Whispered. Soft and slow, like it was savoring each syllable. I woke up drenched in sweat, the sheets twisted around me like vines. I don't remember checking out. I just remember driving. Like I was on autopilot, trying to put distance between me and that room, that dream, that thing. My next haul took me through Wyoming, across I-80, past long stretches of open plains and ghost towns. You'd think that kind of openness would be a relief after what I'd been through, but out there the silence is louder. It gets into your head. One night around Rawlins, I stopped for fuel at one of those 24-hour places. Nothing but a few pumps, a flickering sign, and a tired old man at the register. He looked up at me and said, "You've seen it, haven't you?" I froze. Asked him what he meant. He just nodded toward the highway and said, "It follows the lonely ones." I didn't say another word, just filled up and drove off. The words bouncing around my skull like pinballs. I don't know what it is, but I know it's out there and it knows me, ready for more when you are. I kept driving after that night, keeping the radio low and my eyes scanning the mirrors more than usual. Something about what that old man said, "It follows the lonely ones," kept echoing in my head like a warning I couldn't shake. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself maybe he was just some burnt-out roadie who'd seen too many movies or had too many sleepless nights. But deep down, I knew better. The road has a memory, and if you've been out here long enough, you start to notice the patterns, the places where rigs disappear, the mile markers with no GPS return, and those dead zones where nothing but static comes through the CB. And me? I was becoming part of those patterns. A couple nights later, somewhere near Laramie, I pulled over at a way station that hadn't been in service for years. The sign was so rusted you could barely read it, and the little building next to it looked more like a haunted shack than anything official. Still, I figured I'd stretch my legs, shake the nerves. As I stepped out, the cold hit me harder than it should have for that time of year. My breath came out like fog, thick and fast, and everything around me was just still. No crickets, no wind, no highway hum. Just silence. That's when I noticed the other truck, parked a little ways off in the shadows like it had been waiting. There. I hadn't seen it pull in, and there were no lights on. Just the silhouette of an old cab and trailer, older than anything still on the road today. I stared at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then I saw movement. Not in the truck, but on top of it. Like someone, or something, crawling. Along the roof, slow and steady, limbs bent wrong like a spider made out of shadows. I backed up toward my rig, keys clutched tight, heart pounding in my throat. Then I heard that whistle again. Same pitch, same eerie rhythm. Coming from the direction of the old truck. I didn't wait. I slammed my door, locked it, fired up the engine, and peeled out so fast I nearly took the way station gate with me. My mirrors showed nothing but darkness behind me, but I swear for a split second I saw headlights, 2 sets actually, flicker to life in that same old truck. Like whatever was riding up top had decided it was time to give chase. I drove, for hours without stopping, my hands shaking, eyes wide, waiting for something to pull up beside me. Nothing ever did. But that whistle? It stayed with me. Even now sometimes when I've been on the road too long and the lines on the asphalt start to blur, I hear it again. Just under the hum of the engine, soft like a lullaby meant to lure me into something I might not wake up from. After that night, I started keeping a shotgun behind the seat, not because I thought it'd help much against whatever that was, but just to feel like I still had some control. You see, the worst part about this kind of thing isn't the fear. Not really. It's the feeling that you're losing your grip on what's real. I mean, who do you tell? Who'd believe you? Hey, dispatch, I got chased by a phantom truck with a shadow thing crawling on it, and now it whistles at me when I sleep. Yeah, I'd be grounded faster than a blown tire. So I kept it to myself and kept rolling. But the road had other plans. A week later, I was hauling freight down through the stretch between Amarillo and Roswell. Now, I've always said that part of the highway's got a strange hum to it, like the land itself is vibrating with secrets it doesn't want to give up. I was driving through the dark, nothing but moonlight and my high beams cutting through the desert, when my CB crackled to life with a static hiss. At first, I figured it was just some cross-signal bleed. Happens sometimes in those open areas. But then I heard it. My name, not my handle, my real name. David. It came through like a breath, like someone whispering right into my ear from the passenger seat. I whipped my head around, but of course no one was there. Just the empty cab and the highway stretching out ahead. I tried to answer, voice shaking. Who is this? Silence. Then the static came back, loud and sharp, followed by a screeching, sound like nails on metal. The lights on my dash flickered, the engine hiccuped, and for a second, just 1 second, I thought I saw a figure running alongside my rig in the ditch, keeping perfect pace with me, even at 60 miles an hour. Tall, gaunt, pale, its mouth hanging open like it was screaming, but no sound came out. I slammed the accelerator and didn't let up until I hit Roswell city limits. When I finally pulled into a truck stop, I was shaking so bad I could barely fill my thermos. Some other drivers were hanging out by the diner laughing about something, and I almost went over to tell them. But I didn't. I just couldn't. I was afraid saying it out loud would make it more real. Instead, I sat in the cab with the engine, running, listening to the whistle of the wind outside and wondering how long it'd be before that thing caught up to me again, because deep down I knew it hadn't finished with me yet. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat there in the cab with the doors locked, my hand resting on the butt of the shotgun, and the thermos slowly going cold beside me. Every time I started to drift off, I'd jolt awake thinking I heard that whisper again, my name floating just beyond the edge of the wind. David. Always just soft enough to question, just loud enough to chill me straight to the bone. When morning finally rolled in, I told myself it had just been exhaustion, too much night driving, too much caffeine, too little sleep. But you and I both know when something's not just in your head. I could feel it in my gut. That thing was still out there, and I wasn't done running from it. The next haul was supposed to be a short one, Roswell to Albuquerque, just a little over 3 hours. Simple run, daylight, nothing to worry about. Still, I checked every mirror twice before I pulled out. I kept the radio off, the CB unplugged, and I played old country songs off my phone, anything with a voice to drown out the silence. But the silence found me anyway. About an hour in, the wind started picking up, and I noticed the desert stretching out on both sides was emptier than usual. No other trucks, no cars, not even a tumbleweed. Just me and that 2-lane ribbon of cracked asphalt cutting through the nothing. Then out of nowhere, my GPS chirped and rerouted. Said there was construction ahead, even though I hadn't seen a single warning sign. I glanced at the screen and frowned. The new route was taking me down a back road I'd never even heard of, Highway 17A. Now I know almost every road between Roswell and Albuquerque, and that one didn't belong. Still, against my better judgment, I followed it. Maybe I didn't want to tempt fate by ignoring it. Maybe something deeper made me turn. Either way, it was a mistake. The further I drove, the darker it got, even though the sun was still out. Clouds rolled in so fast it was like the sky had been waiting for me to pass a certain mile marker. The pavement got older, cracked, and eventually turned to gravel, then dirt. My rig groaned on the uneven ground, and I slowed to a crawl. That's when I saw the signs. Handmade, wooden, and splintered like someone had carved warnings into them with a knife. Turn back. Death waits. And the last one, right before I crossed a rusted metal bridge. You're not alone. I stopped. For a long moment, I just sat there, engine idling, staring at that sign, my heart pounding. I should have turned around. I should have. But I didn't. Because something about the road ahead pulled at me. like invisible fingers gripping the wheel. And the second I crossed that bridge, everything changed. The second I crossed that bridge, it felt like I'd slipped through a crack in the world. I'm not talking metaphorically. I mean, it literally felt like the temperature dropped 20 degrees. The air got heavier, and the landscape behind me just faded. I glanced in my rearview mirror, and the bridge I'd just crossed, gone. Just a thin ribbon of mist stretching into the void. The dirt road ahead kept winding through dense woods that hadn't been there before. I mean, this was supposed to be desert country, not a damn forest, but there it was. Thick trees, on both sides leaning in like they were listening, hiding something. My radio flickered to life even though it was turned off. It wasn't music though, just static and then a voice. A woman's voice, whispering in a language I didn't understand, soft and rhythmic, like a chant. It stopped as suddenly as it started, and that's when I saw her. She was standing on the side of the road, barefoot, long hair hanging over her face like one of those ghosts from a Japanese horror flick. I hit the brakes hard, tires skidding in the dirt, heart thumping like a war drum. She didn't move, just stood there, wearing some kind of tattered white dress, arms dangling by her sides. I rolled down the window just a crack and called out, "You all right, ma'am?" She didn't answer, but her head twitched slightly, and I swear I saw her smile through the curtain of hair. Not a friendly smile either, more like a grin that had forgotten what warmth felt like. Against every screaming instinct in my body, I stepped out of the truck. The moment my boots hit the ground, the wind stopped. Dead silence. Not a single rustle from the trees, no birds, no bugs, not even the hum of the engine. It was like the world had hit pause. I took a few steps toward her, one hand resting near my pocket knife just in case. "You lost?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. That's when she finally moved, slowly lifting her head, revealing empty black sockets where her eyes should have been, not hollow, not bleeding, just dark bottomless pits that seemed to suck the light straight out of the air. I froze, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Her mouth opened, wider than any human jaw should, and the sound that came out wasn't a scream. It was hundreds of voices all crying out at once. Men, women, children, all overlapping in this awful chorus of pain. I stumbled back to the truck, tripping over my own damn feet, scrambled into the cab, and slammed the door shut. She was gone. Just vanished. But the mirrors, every single one of them showed her still standing out there, watching me from all sides. I hit the gas, tires spinning, dirt flying, and tore down that road as fast as the rig would carry me. But I swear, no matter how far I drove, those eyes, the ones I never saw directly, stayed just at the edge of vision, waiting, watching. And that road, it didn't let me off easy. I didn't stop driving for hours. Didn't dare. My hands were white-knuckled on the wheel, my foot stayed hard on the pedal, and I kept glancing at the mirrors, even though I knew I shouldn't. You ever get that feeling where you know looking too long at something might just drive you mad? That was me. Every time I'd glance into a mirror, her shape was still there, blurry, like a smear on the glass, but unmistakable. Long hair, pale dress, those black voids where eyes ought to be. I tried wiping the mirrors down at one point, thinking maybe I was just losing it from lack of sleep. But the rag came away clean, and when I looked again, there she was, watching, silent, unmoving, always just far enough away to make me question whether she was really there at all. That's the cruel part of it, when the thing messing with you knows how to stay just out of reach of proof. Now you gotta understand something. Truckers, we're creatures of habit. We got our routes, our stops, our gas stations with the half-decent coffee and the waitress who remembers your name. But the road I was on didn't match any of that. My GPS was dead. Phone had no bars. The CB radio just gave me static when I tried calling for help. The highway I thought I was on, gone. Replaced with something older, wilder, like the earth itself had reclaimed the asphalt. The lines were faded. The pavement cracked like it hadn't seen maintenance in decades. Trees hung low and heavy overhead, forming a kind of tunnel that blocked out the sun, and the deeper I drove, the darker it got, even though my clock said it was still early afternoon. At some point, the road split. No sign, no warning, just forked off to the left or right. Both paths looked the same, and I had no clue which. One would lead me out, so I flipped a coin. Stupid maybe, but I had to choose. Took the left path, and about a mile down I saw a diner. An old one, chrome siding, neon lights flickering even in the gloom. I damn near cried from relief. Pulled in, shut the engine off, and just sat there a minute trying to steady my nerves. The parking lot was full of cars, but not a soul in sight. No movement behind the windows. Just that soft flicker of neon that spelled out open like a lie whispered through clenched teeth. I stepped inside and the bell over the door jingled. Normal enough. But the smell hit me first. Not food, not grease or coffee. It smelled like dust and rot, like a basement that hadn't been opened in years. The booths were full of mannequins, no joke. Life-sized, human-shaped mannequins, each dressed in old clothes, posed like they were eating, drinking, talking. One had a cup halfway to its lips, frozen mid-sip. Another had its head turned toward me, like it had just been about to say something. But their faces were blank, no features, just smooth plastic skin. I backed toward the door, but it wouldn't open. Locked from the outside somehow. Then the jukebox came on. No one touched it. It just clicked to life, slow and mechanical, and started playing a song I hadn't heard in years, Midnight Train to Georgia. My grandma used to play it on a scratched-up record when I was a kid. As the music played, the mannequins began to move, slow, twitchy movements like something was trying to learn how joints were supposed to work. One turned its head toward me, then another. Then they all stood at once, chairs scraping back in unison, and began to shuffle my way. I ran to the back door, found it wide open now like it had been waiting, and bolted out into the woods behind the diner. I didn't stop running till I hit the road again, and when I looked back, no diner. Just trees, like it had never been there. Or maybe like it was only ever meant for me. Either way, I got back in my rig and kept driving. That's when I realized I still wasn't out. I hadn't seen another car in hours. The fuel gauge didn't move no matter how far I drove. And the girl? The one with no eyes? She was in the passenger seat now. I didn't see her move in. Didn't hear the door open. Just looked over, and there she was, smiling that same crooked, impossible smile. I kept my eyes on the road, afraid that if I looked at her too long, she'd do something. Move closer, whisper something I couldn't unhear, or maybe just vanish again only to reappear in the back seat. My hands were trembling on the wheel, but I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. You ever get that gut feeling that if you hit the brakes even for a second, it'll all come crashing down? That was me, running on instinct and sheer panic. I kept talking out loud just to break the silence, telling myself it wasn't real, that I was tired, stressed, maybe even sick. But the longer I drove, the more I realized this wasn't some trick of the mind. The world around me had changed. The trees lining the road had turned to towering skeletal things, bark peeling like skin, branches like claws scraping at the sky. The moon above wasn't the moon anymore. It pulsed like a heartbeat, and every so often, it blinked. She sat, there motionless, that grin never fading. No sound came from her, but the air grew colder. The breath from my mouth fogged up the windshield. The radio crackled again, first static, then a voice. But it wasn't a voice I recognized. It was mine, saying words I hadn't said yet, a perfect recording of my own thoughts, but just a second too soon, like the radio was predicting what I'd think before I thought it. I turned it off. Silence. Then she laughed. Just once. A low, dry laugh, like the last breath out of a corpse's lungs. I gritted my teeth, flipped on the high beams, and pushed the pedal harder. I had no idea where I was going anymore. The road didn't match any route I'd ever driven, and I've been all over the country. I should have hit a town, a mile marker, a damn gas station by now. But there was nothing, just the endless stretch of blacktop in the forest that seemed to press closer and closer until it felt like I was inside a tunnel made of bones. And then the rig stopped. Just like that. Engine cut out, lights flickered and died. Everything went still. I tried the ignition. Nothing. Tried again. Still nothing. And when I looked up, she was gone. The passenger seat was empty. I let out a shaky breath, thinking, maybe it was over. Maybe it was all in my head. But then I saw it in the rearview mirror. Her face pressed against the glass from the outside, upside down. Eyes still missing. Smile still too wide. She was crawling on the cab roof like some kind of insect. Limbs bending the wrong way, nails scratching at the metal. I jumped out of the truck, slammed the door shut, and ran. Just straight into the woods. No plan, no direction. Just away. The trees closed in behind me, branches snatching at my clothes, whispering in voices that weren't human. I swear I heard my own name called out again and again, each time from a different direction. But I kept running until I hit a clearing, and there it was. A truck stop, lit up, bright as day. People inside, real people. Talking, eating, laughing. I stumbled in, panting, covered in scratches and dirt. They all looked at me like I was crazy. Some laughed. One guy offered me a coffee. I took it, sat down, and just tried to catch my breath. When I looked out the window, my rig was parked right there. Exactly where it should be. Not a scratch on it. Nothing broken. And the girl, gone. Like none of it had happened. But here's the thing, friend. That truck stop. I went back a week later, took the same road, same route. There's nothing there. No building. No lights. No sign it ever existed. Just an empty patch of overgrown land and an old rusted sign that read, Rest Easy Diner closed since 1983. I didn't talk to anyone about what happened for a long time. Who would believe it, right? A ghost girl with no eyes crawling across the roof of a semi, a truck stop that vanished into thin air, voices from the radio that knew my thoughts before I did. It all sounds like the ramblings of someone who's been on the road too long. And maybe that's true. But every time I start thinking it was all in my head, something else happens to remind me it wasn't. Like the tire tracks I found, leading away from my truck one morning, tracks that ended in the middle of the desert with no other vehicles in sight. Or the night I caught a glimpse of that same eyeless girl in the reflection of my side mirror, just for a split second, standing behind the trailer even though I was miles from anywhere. I even tried quitting for a while. Parked the rig, told myself I'd find something else to do. But the road's in my blood. And the nightmares didn't stop when I stayed home. If anything, they got worse. Dreams where I was driving down a road that never ends. A sky above filled with eyes that blinked in rhythm with my heartbeat, and every time I looked in the mirror, I saw things following me. Not people, things. Shapes that shifted and crawled along the edges of the highway like shadows that didn't belong. So I went back to driving. Not because I wanted to, but because it was safer than sitting still. At least when I'm moving, whatever's out there has to keep up. You ever get the feeling something's hitching a ride with you? I started keeping a dash cam, thinking maybe I'd catch something on video, proof I wasn't losing my mind. But the footage always gets corrupted on the night something happens. Static. Distortion. Once the camera caught me sleeping in the cab and something leaned in from the darkness, outside just barely visible in the edge of the frame. A shape with long fingers tapping the glass, watching me breathe. I didn't know until I played it back the next day. That's when I started locking the cab from the inside every night and keeping a flashlight in my hand even when I was sleeping. But the locks don't always help. A few weeks ago I woke up and the cab door was wide open. Nothing was missing, but my boots were wet like I'd been walking in the rain. And it hadn't rained for days. I kept thinking maybe I could find the heart of it, you know? Like maybe there was a center to all this weirdness, a core that explained the hauntings, the voices, the roads that didn't lead anywhere. So I started following the patterns more seriously. I marked every incident, on paper maps, not just digital. And slowly, a shape began to form. Not a circle or a grid, but something more like a spiral, looping inward across states and counties, and forgotten stretches of highway. The center of that spiral, A spot out in Arizona. Middle of nowhere. No towns. No gas stations. Just a cracked road leading into the desert with no mile markers and no name. The other drivers didn't believe me when I mentioned it, but a few old-timers gave me a look that said they'd heard of it too. One guy, Big Al, been driving since the 70s. He got real quiet when I brought it up. Said he once went that way chasing a big payout on a rush delivery, and he swore he lost an entire day. Said the sun went down, came back up, and he had no memory of the in-between. That was all I needed. I decided to go. Loaded up a light trailer so I wouldn't be dragging weight. Topped off the tank, brought extra water and batteries, and said a little prayer to whatever might be listening. The road out there was wrong from the start. You ever driven on pavement? That feels too soft, like your tires are sinking just a little with every mile. That's what it was like. The horizon stayed the same no matter how far I drove. Just flat land, scrub brush, and heat shimmer. But the sky? The sky was different. Clouds didn't move like they should. They spun in place, slowly, like they were watching me. Hours passed, but my clock barely ticked. And then the radio lit, up, full volume static, before going dead. Not even white noise, just silence, thick and pressing like a vacuum. I should have turned around then. I should have known. But I didn't. I kept going until I hit something I thought was a mirage. A diner. Middle of nowhere. Neon buzzing even though it wasn't connected to any lines. A few trucks parked out front, all covered in dust like they hadn't moved in years. But one had fresh tire marks. That's when I saw the sign. Welcome back. Back? I'd never been here before. Or had I? I stepped inside and it was like time folded in on itself. Every face in that place turned to me, but their eyes didn't blink, didn't move. Like wax figures just barely remembering how to be people. A woman behind the counter smiled. You finally made it, she said, like she'd been expecting me. I asked her where I was, but she only poured coffee and told me to sit. My legs moved on their own. That's when I saw the clock behind her, no hands, just spinning slowly, like a compass gone mad. The other drivers began talking, but their words weren't in sync with their mouths, like they were reciting something memorized long ago, and every one of them in that eerie chorus said the same thing. The road doesn't let go, not once it knows you. I tried to leave, bolted for the door. But when I stepped outside, my truck was gone, replaced by another one, identical, but older, covered in rust and dust and faded stickers I didn't recognize. I opened the cab and there was a logbook on the dash. It had my name written in it, pages full of routes I never drove, incidents I never remembered. One page had a date circled, today, and under it, in handwriting that didn't look like mine, final delivery, no returns. That's when I knew. This wasn't about ghosts or monsters. It was the road itself. It was alive and it had chosen me. I don't know how I got out of there. I remember screaming, heat, and then darkness. When I woke up, I was on the shoulder of I-40. Engine off, trailer gone, sun just rising. No diner, no spiral road, nothing. But the logbook was still there. And that rusted old truck in the memory, it's the one I drive now. Mine disappeared, never found it, just gone. Now I keep going, always moving. Because if I stop, I feel it creeping back in. That silence, that pressure. The road calling me. Maybe one day it'll finally pull me back. Maybe next time I won't make it out. But until then I keep driving, sharing what I've seen, warning anyone who'll listen. Because once the highway marks you, you're never really alone again. And sometimes, in the dead of night, I swear, I still hear that diner's neon buzzing in the distance just waiting for me to come home.